Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how to run the three-phase separator application. And this is an application that was developed by Eon in partnership with the company TSC. What TSC does is they make simulators that simulate like processes and procedures in oil refineries, so that the user has to perform like certain tasks. They have to open and close certain valves and shut off certain pumps in the correct order, and then their software will perform logic to make sure all that's done correctly. And Eon will interface with that through our just through a desktop simulation, and there also is a Vive version as well. And the latest desktop version for this is version 1.61. I'm going to show the desktop version first. This was actually made in it's actually in 9.20.22 21026, and actually either one of these versions work pretty well. Either these 920 versions here. And there is actually quite a lot of steps to install. There's quite a few pitfalls as well during the installation process, and you can feel free to reach out to James Canada if you need any help with the installation process. But I'm just going to basically be going over how to actually run the simulation here. So I've opened up the EOZ. You may have just an EDZ viewer file. That's fine too. So I've opened up that. And it's actually important that we run the TSC software first. It's actually just this, it's called TSC Sim Create Run here. And then I'm just going to select when it opens up. I'm going to highlight three-phase separator, because there are other applications. In this particular one, we're just doing the three-phase separator. I'm going to run it. And in my case, I haven't actually got a registered license because I have this on a few different computers. But it's not a big deal. I can just say no to run the demo version, and it'll give me a full feature program, but it'll just time out after 5 minutes. So just keep that in mind. And like I said, it is important to run this first before you launch the Eon simulation. And the first time you run this, it does take quite some time actually. It will probably take a good 30 seconds for this program to load after I've selected the three-phase separator. And while that's actually loading, let me connect to my Xbox controller, because this desktop version does use the Xbox controller. Just say OK for the log comment. And it has this application starts in. I'm just going to cancel out of that. Just because, well, it just sort of depends. If what that'll do is that'll search a certain file path if the correct EOZ is in that file path. In my case, I actually just downloaded this file. So if everything is set up properly, you could just say OK and it'll open that EOZ. But in my case, I wanted to open my own EOZ just because I know where it is. And it'll actually start in this full screen mode, which can make it kind of difficult to get around. What I'll do is hit Control-Shift-F to get out of that full screen. And the next thing I'm going to do while I'm in here is, okay, so I guess first let's just kind of take a look at this program. Like I said before, you have all these valves. You can select them. Well, actually, I can't select them yet. What I have to do is I have to log in with this little icon here. And I'm going to choose admin, and password is CHEMENG, like chemical engineer. It's like an acronym. Say OK. You can see I can see a lot more of the UI now, and I can even click on one of these guys here, and I had the status of that particular valve there. So all these little green icons are valves. If they're green, that means they're open. If they're red, that means they're closed. And I can actually close and open them right here. And then on the back end of this program, there's just some logic going on under the hood. And so, for instance, if something's going wrong, it'll show up in this alarms down here. So if I were to actually close this, chances are, since I'm no expert at this, chances are I didn't follow proper procedure, and it's going to detect that I've kind of did the wrong thing. And sooner or later, I'm expecting to see a little alarm here. And one more thing to note: if it does have an alarm, it'll make a pretty obnoxious, like beeping sound. It sounds pretty annoying. And if that does happen, and you're just kind of trying to debug this program or whatever, I still don't have the alarm going. I'm kind of surprised by that. If I close this valve, probably will. And you can see it has a little percentage right there of how open it is. So there, that alarm's going off now. It's a pretty obnoxious little beeping. What I'll often want to do is I'll go down to this little sound Here I'll go to volume mixer, and I'll mute TSC here. I'm trying to get this Steam VR out of the way. This is like crash or something. Okay, and yeah, I'll just mute that TSC program, because you'll have a lot of alarms going off unless you're actually the end user of this and you know what to do correctly, which as a developer I don't even really know what the correct maintenance procedures are for this three-phase separator. But so you have those valves you can open and close. You have these various little like temperature and pressure gauges, and these will actually also be interfaced with the Eon simulation as well. You also have these little pumps here. If I click on one of these pumps, you can start and stop it. If I were to stop it, you'll just see the RPMs are starting to go down. It'll turn red in a second. And I spent kind of a lot of time in this, just kind of showing you the UI for this. I'm going to go ahead and restart the model because I know it's going to time out, because I'm sure it's been about 5 minutes. So in this time, instead of closing and reopening it, I'll just go to File, Start Model, and select three-phase separator, and run. And this time it won't take nearly as long to load. Okay, so and just log in again. Say OK. And if you recall, I said you want to make sure that you launch that one first, and now I'm just going to run the Eon simulation after I've already opened the TSC. The reason it's important to do that is because Eon will, at the very initialization of the simulation, it'll read all of these valves here. It'll read the states, whether each one of these is open or closed. And if that's not performed correctly, then Eon will actually send back the wrong values for these. And from the Eon side, because from the Eon side, you can actually, you'll see in a second, you can open and close these valves in the actual 3D environment, and they'll be updated in the TSC program. So if you don't open this TSC program first, Eon will send bad values, and it'll mess up all these starting open and closed values for these valves. And this, like I said, is done with the Xbox controller. So I just see this splash screen starting out. I'm just going to press A to cycle, get out of that. And now I'm using the controller. I'm just using the left joystick to move my position. And to look around, I can use the right joystick just to look up, down, left, and right. I can even also use the right shoulder button to toggle the sensitivity if I want to have some fine adjustment there. And I can press Start to actually hide and show that little laser. And if I wanted to go and interact with one of these valves, I can go over here to, I can even crouch down by pressing X. I see that's going to be V10309 there. So maybe just as a quick test, I can go look for V10309 in here. There, it's right. It's that one there. So we'll see, to actually interact with this valve, what I'll do is I'm going to press the B button on the Xbox controller. And then since this one is already opened, I can see, I'm going to hold the right trigger to rotate it closed. And once I've closed that completely, you'll see it even turn red in the TSC program here. See that? And then if I were to actually click on that, we can even monitor it. So that little MV, that little measured value there, is actually corresponding to how much I've rotated this. So if I even just rotated it halfway open, you'll see that go to 50%. Something else interesting about this, you'll see this little manual and EXO button here. Right now, it's in EXO mode, meaning since it's in external, I guess it means external control. I don't even have the ability to open or close these from TSC. So it's actually just listening for the Eon values here. If I wanted to actually be able to control it from TSC, I can select manual, and what will happen now is I can open or close it, and this will even animate from within inside of Eon. So if I were to close it, you'll even see that animate closed on Eon. And the way these two components are sending data back and forth is this little OPC server window. This should launch automatically whenever you run this TSC program or the Eon program. If it doesn't, if this doesn't launch automatically, that means that the installation isn't set up correctly. But you'll see, like on V10309 down here, so you have this from actual position. That means that's the, see, it's 100%. That represents what TSC is telling the valve to do. So if I were to close it, you'll see that number go back down. See, it's going to 40, 16. And then where you have the target position for V10309, that's actually what Eon wants to do. So it's back to 0 again, put it back in external control for Eon, and we'll see that value right there will update when I rotate the valve from within Eon here. See? And whether it uses which one of these is dependent on whether you've selected manual or EXO. And it's actually, and you'll see the control mode, there's for V10309, that valve I'm on over here. You'll see whenever you change the manual or EXO, this control mode for V10309 is going to be changed as well. So that's checked, meaning that that it is in Eon control. And whenever I would change this to manual, you'll see that get unchecked. It looks like my demo time has expired here, so I'm just going to restart this. Control-Shift-F to get out of full screen. And then launch the Eon simulation. So yeah, the basic idea here is that the trainer might, or the control operator would be using the TSC program. That way I can just kind of monitor whatever the trainee is doing, making sure he's doing the right valves, the right order, turning the correct pumps. And then the trainee will be in the simulation over here. The trainee also has, in this particular simulation, if I press the left shoulder button here, I actually have this little clipboard. It might be kind of hard to see. And I can use this D-pad to scroll through these tabs. So vertically, when I scroll through, each one of these tabs is a separate document. And I'm using the D-pad, like I said. And then to actually scroll through the pages of that document, I use the left and right D-pad. So we see, like, the first tab is just the controller stuff. The second tab is just diagrams. Third tab is actually a list of procedures. It says, see, it's shutdown procedures right there. So that's saying actually all the valves. You'll see a chart here. These are all the valves that have to be open and closed for this particular shutdown procedure. So if you were a trainee, this would be pretty helpful. And then we have the startup procedures with also the list of valves that need to be turned. And I think maintenance procedure is the last one there. And the other components to this, in addition to the valves are by far the most important component of this app. But you do have a few other types of components. The other one we talked about were these pumps here. So this is what the pump actually looks like from within the 3D environment. You'll see, like that right there, it should be in external mode. So whenever I select this pump, it's actually pretty similar to how you select a valve. You use the B button to select it, And now to actually toggle that button, I'm going to press the A button. And you see it just, it started that guy up right there. See, now he's yellow, and he's about to turn green once those RPMs right there reach 1800. And there's also some audio on this. I'm not sure if it's coming through for the video or not, but there should be some audio that kind of that tapers off as you get farther away from it for each pump. So that's another type of component. Like I said, you also have those like temperature gauges and pressure gauges. There's just a lot of components that take readings that are in the form of this little green digital display. So you'll see that 998.325. That's coming through one of these over here. I'm not sure exactly where that one is, but that's just so the guy in the training simulation can just kind of make sure he can see what's going on. If some reading's not quite right there, he'll know it. So that's DI 10170. Let me see, I'm not sure if I'll be able to find DI 10170 in here. Actually, there it is, it's that one right there. So you can see that's 998.33. That's 998.325. So it's actually rounded to not quite the same number of decimals there, but you see. And also there are these other like emergency buttons. They're called manual call point and emergency shutdown. I'm trying to find them right over here. So here's manual call point. To be honest, I'm not sure the major difference between these two, but they're basically saying something's gone wrong and you need to shut down the plant. And the way you activate them is the same way you toggle those pump buttons. So just pressing B to select it and A to actually press it. And once I've done that, actually my demo time's run out. Hold on a sec. Let me. I believe when I do trigger one of those alarms or one of those emergency buttons, I believe I should get an alarm through here as well, and it'll essentially just shut off everything on this side. It'll shut off all the pumps. It should. So if I go, where was that? Again, if you're having trouble, if it's too sensitive, just hit that right shoulder button there. I thought that might have set an alarm off. It did shut the pumps down though, you can see. The pumps are turning off. There the alarm goes to. See the other types of components. There's a few other types. You have these little needles right here, and those are essentially similar to one of these. You'll see like open is 100% and closed is 0%, and it's going to be like one of these little percentage readings. If I can find one. Those are actually they're called XZV needles. You see it's XZV 10102. So it's going to be one of these somewhere around here. There's actually more stuff if you click one of these. They're somewhere around here. So those are all FCVs, but that's essentially what they are. They're just a little 0 to 100 measurement that's being read from this program. And again, I'm not 100% sure the significance of it, but just another way that this program interfaces with the logic of the TSC program. You also have, these are the FCVs right here. That's FCV 10105. You see there's FCV 105 right there. And what's going on here with these, it's not a real obvious interaction here, but this vertical position of that plate will actually animate up and down based on the percentage of this value in TSC right here. It's a flow control valve. And there is collision on this program, so you can't actually go through like pipes and stuff, so you actually have to use the stairs to get around. And what you'll see here, there's actually ladders you can climb as well. And it even indicates that you're on a climbable ladder, because this little GUI element over here, it goes dark and black for this up button on the D-pad, signifying that you can actually press up right at this point. So when I get to the bottom of the ladder, you'll see that that'll get highlighted. That'll get dark, meaning that I can press it now. And see, now both of those up and downs are both highlighted. That means I can go up and down. So that GUI kind of tells you what buttons are actually relevant at the time being. So you see LB and right B for left bumper and right bumper are always usable, because you can always pull up the clipboard. Actually, when you're on the ladder, you can't. I guess you can, actually. But you see these all become highlighted, all the up and down arrows, when I pull the clipboard out, because you can use all the D-pad buttons to navigate through the clipboard. But you can only use up and down to get on the ladder. So you see it's kind of telling you, it's giving you a little bit of a hint that you're on the ladder, and you can move up and down on it. Once I get up here, there's just a bunch of more valves and various other components. You can climb the stairs as well. The ladder's just a little bit faster. And that's pretty much the entirety of this program. There is also a Vive version of this, and I think I'll just kind of quickly touch on that. The Vive version, let me actually start this over. I believe the latest Vive version is this 15.24. And most of the logic still applies. Obviously, since you're in a Vive, there's going to be some differences. The Xbox controller is replaced by the Vive controllers. Okay. Let me try to get this display mirror up here. All right, there we go. Okay, so like I said, there's a lot of similarities. I had this splash screen still, and these Xbox buttons are even mapped to the Vive controller, so I can just press the touchpad where that A button is to cycle through that splash screen and get rid of it. And I have the teleportation navigation. And I do even have a walk navigation as optional. And the way I'm actually toggling between these is using the left squeeze button to toggle between these two navigation modes. I'm going to go to a valve to actually turn one of these valves. I'm going to use the right controller. It'll actually come up with that highlighting box when I just intersect it. I'm going to use the right trigger on the same controller. I'm going to click it once, and then I'm going to click and hold. And while I'm clicking and holding, I'm going to rotate like a screwdriver left or right. And that's how we're going to actually turn the valves in here. Most everything still applies the same. As far as just the readouts and stuff, nothing is really different there. The way you interact with these, I just simply click once with the right trigger, and it'll toggle that pump. Teleportation's a little weird on the stairs, but you can also use the walk mode to get up the stairs as well if you're having trouble with the teleport.